Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by Ross Baran. We got lots to talk about on today's show, following an eventful week, as always, at TPC Scottsdale for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, including Thomas Detry, of all people, showing dog and winning by a touchdown. We also got to talk about Tiger Woods withdrawing from this week's Genesis Invitational. We'll get into some early leans, some live stuff, talking about the ratings and a potential framework agreement that is being proposed right now. Ross has written up a great article about it that's going to be dropped at ontapsportsnet.com. Make sure to go and check it out over there. I dropped a course preview and everything to know before the Genesis Invitational starts on Thursday this week as well. Make sure to go and check that out if you want to find out any stats or anything else you need to know before the action begins at Torrey Pines. Before we get into all that good stuff, Ross, gotta ask you how the vibes are hanging on this Monday afternoon. I know it's always a little bit of a slap to the face and a reality check to go back to work on Monday morning following the Super Bowl, particularly after one of the most eventful Super Bowls we've seen in recent years. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs looked like dog water. The Eagles did everything they wanted, led to a terrible Super Bowl, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I went to bed at like the third quarter because I was like, oh, this is done. And I woke up very upset, like a lot of people, that my parlay I put in was I did the over at 52 for plus money. I did the Eagles money line for plus money. I picked DeAndre Hopkins anytime for the Chiefs at plus money. And then I put Saquon for any time. To wake up this morning and find out that Saquon was the only thing that didn't find the end zone last night was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that is a tough beat, and I'm sure you're not alone by any means in that category that got burned by a Saquon touchdown that didn't end up happening. And I mentioned to you before recording, obviously as a Chicago Bears fan, unfortunately, it reminded me a lot of when the Chicago Bears back in '85 routed the New England Patriots and Walter Payton didn't somehow end up in the end zone. And you look at the final score, if you told fans before the game or just everyone before the game, that was the result, you would have assumed Payton ended up in the end zone. Saquon ended up in the end zone, maybe even twice. But yeah, didn't really go all that well for me in the betting department on the Super Bowl either. I did win the coin toss. I was going up against none other than Joey Ricotta, who I talk bets with all the time here at Golf on Tap. We did the coin toss last year for a month of our subscription that we do to get all of our PGA Tour data. He won last year. I did pick tails this year and got the job done. I would have came out real pretty, Ross, if two different things had happened. I had the DeAndre Hopkins touchdown as well, but I parlayed it, as I mentioned on the show with Joey last week when we went through all of our final bets. I parlayed it with Brandt Snedeker top 40 at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. And the bad boy wound up making the cut, and he was making a run for the top 40 on Sunday, Ross. He was, I think, 4 under through his first 12 holes. I'm like, holy shit, Sneds has got it going. And then he ended up bogeying like 3 of the final 5, and he finished T60 something or whatnot. But that was like 30-1. Parlay Sneds with D-Hop anytime touchdown. And then I did hit Adam Hadwin, top Canadian, plus 600. But I had that parlayed with Patty Mahomes anytime touchdown in the Chiefs plus 4.5. So they certainly didn't cover that margin. So the Super Bowl didn't go all that great for me. I had DeAndre Hopkins solo, the tails bet, I should say, with Joey. That's about all that went good for me. Certainly didn't cash any bets at the WM Phoenix Open because did not think in my wildest dreams that Thomas Detry was going to hold on to that lead, and certainly didn't think he was going to be the one winning by a touchdown. I saw one of the best tweets I'd ever seen yesterday afternoon from Rob Baroff, I think is his name on X, but he said when Thomas Detry shows Patrick Mahomes level dog on Sunday and Patrick Mahomes shows Thomas level Detry dog on Sunday, the whole world was on a complete 180. But yeah, did not have Thomas Detry taking down the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Didn't have him winning by 7. I had Robert McIntyre and Maverick McNeely, who kind of made things interesting. McIntyre was, kind of on the precipice of making a push, and then the par 5s just absolutely destroyed him on the back 9. Wasn't able to make a run on Tommy Dietz's heels like I imagined and like I hoped him to, but What an impressive performance from Thomas Detry, Ross. Like I imagined, or like I talked about, not something I think anyone imagined. Give me your kind of takeaways about Detry getting the job done in landslide fashion to extinguish the narrative of him as a choke artist.
So I have two things on Thomas Detry from this past weekend. First of all, there it is. There's the breakthrough that we have been talked about forever. Since 2016, we've been tabbed up on Thomas Detry, this player from the University of Illinois, just like every other Euro golfer seems to end up there for a specific, and it's not a specific reason really. That's where they are drawn to play. They all go there. It's been on multiple different platforms that they all gravitate. That U of I with their coaching staff is just the perfect place if you're a Euro player, if you want to go and be successful. They have a very long history of producing tour pros, but he finally broke through. Did it in incredible fashion by a touchdown on Super Bowl Sunday. And I actually feel really bad for Thomas Detry because all the attention was not on him and this unbelievable performance he put on to seal that first hallowed win that we've waited on for so long. It all focused on everyone else. And to be fair, everyone else deserved their shine because you have people coming off of injuries, making unbelievable performances. But I do feel bad for Thomas Detry that when he finally has this huge breakthrough moment and just obliterates the field, pulls, especially in crunch time.
Yeah, right.
Just down the stretch when it's really close, like, oh, here it comes. No, I'm going to go birdie. I'm going to pull away and I'm going to slam the door. I'm gone.
Yeah, the entire weekend, every time he hit, 11 or 12 or some of those dicey tee shots that are out there at TPC Scottsdale, I expected like a Steven Yeager or JJ Spawn level left hook as we were seeing at the Sony Open to begin the season, but it just never happened for Thomas Detry. And look, this is a super talented player. Guy has a lot of runner-ups and close calls throughout his career, but to never have done it at his age, on the DP World Tour before even coming over to the PGA Tour, I think, brush a lot of people the wrong way in terms of whether he can ever truly get it done. And we had seen, a Belgium like Thomas Pieters, who was very similar career trajectory, come on the PGA Tour and never get it done. So for Detry, who's had all these good performances, I mean, he finished T4 at the PGA Championship at Valhalla last year, like super talented player, but just questionable, to put it nicely, level of dog. The driver was, pretty solid for most of the tournament. Yeah, it got wayward at times on Sunday, but he wasn't taking it absolutely off the planet. The putter was rock solid. I mean, the putt that he made, he was making everything on Saturday in general, but the putt that he made on 18 to save par on Saturday, when I think everyone just expected him to make a bogey there after the approach shot he had, he played it well out left. It was a super conservative play. He drills that long par putt, making everything. And it was still the case on Sunday. He made a lot of big time putts on 15 when Daniel Berger cut it down to 2 after Berger had chipped in to save par, gets a nice up and down and makes a 15-foot putt to kind of put some pressure on Thomas Detry really for the first time on the back nine. Detry steps in and handles his like 7-footer to make birdie on 15. And then I think that got him fired up to go and stick the dart that he did on 16, which is definitely going to be the winning moment for Thomas Detry with all those fans around. Yeah, it is a simple golf hole, as a lot of the players put it. And there's not a whole lot to it other than all of the fans. Ton of adrenaline, ton on the line for Thomas Detry. And he goes and puts it to a foot to absolutely clinch the tournament. Yeah, it was incredible. As far as the broadcast and kind of the lack of shine for Thomas Detry in this event, I'm sure he's not too upset about it. I'm sure he's happy just to get the win regardless. It does stink that he wasn't he was still the primary talking point. There were a lot of Jim Nantz hyping up Thomas Detry for the performance that he's had and for some of his close calls in the past and his history and whatnot. I think just with it being the Super Bowl preview and the stars that were right on the precipice of making a run, as we'll get to here in just a second, Jordan Spieth and Scottie Scheffler, right? Those have to be, I think, big narratives to the audience that is supposed to be tuning into, the Waste Management as this Super Bowl appetizer. Whether that truly is the case or not, I don't know. I don't know what the ratings are going to be or the differential or whatnot, but that's kind of what I think the PGA Tour truly wants to market this bad boy as. And in part of captivating the audience, you got to talk about the best players in the world, especially when they are semi-close. So I do feel a little bit bad for Thomas Detry because that was the case, certainly. I don't really blame the broadcast as much as I do for many other things. I think this is just one of those times where they got to do what's best for their business and money and keeping fans interested to stay on the channel. And that was talking about Scottie Scheffler maybe making a run or Jordan Spieth doing some of the ridiculous things he did. I think that was just an unfortunate circumstance for Thomas Detry with that being the week. But at the end of the day, it's, to me, at least a little bit of a moot talking point because he won't really care and he got the job done, I'm sure. But what really stood out to me, Ross, was we've known Thomas Detry, really good driver of the golf ball. At Valhalla was like a total driving golf course. We saw Bryson just absolutely mash it there. Gets the T4 there. We know he has driving upside. The putting upside's always been there. The iron play was like incredible all week long, and how high he was able to hit the ball on some of his shots in order to get it stop on these firm conditions where the ball was just kind of bouncing everywhere. Like his iron play, I think he was top 5 in the field on approach, and we knew the putting was there. We knew the driver was there. But when he has this type of iron play, like Thomas Detry is a serious player when he's not gagging away tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the proof is in the pudding, right? Like he finally broke through, and he didn't break through easy. He kicked everyone's ass, like a touchdown. We won, but we won by a touchdown.
You don't see a touchdown very often in the modern PGA Tour. And like as bundled as the lead was, like right below him, everyone else on the leaderboard, there's lots of guys at 17, 16, 15. He just cleared them all away. So huge congratulations to Thomas Detry. First Belgium to win on the PGA Tour. I don't think a lot of people expected him to be the one to break through. His first PGA Tour win, first real noteworthy professional win, as I mentioned earlier, did never get it done on the DP World Tour either.
I was going to say, it was a touchdown on Super Bowl Sunday, and this is what I was really trying to point at with all the other stories that were occurring behind him is Thomas Detry won by a touchdown on Super Bowl Sunday at the WM.
Yeah, and it's
like, I mean, that is a huge breakthrough win, and it wasn't in forgive me for circling back a little bit, but it was there. It was semi-close coming down the stretch. But when he had to kick it into gear, he slammed the door.
Yeah, just close it out the way that he did. Birdie the last. Shoot 65 on Sunday there.
Yeah, just when we thought like, oh, here it comes, maybe little noise, make it interesting. Nope, slam that door shut, and oh, I'm up a touchdown.
And he was firing at pins all day long, too. I think it was 11, like the hardest hole on the golf course. Water all along the left-hand side. Flies it right at the pin and gets it to sit at the back left corner of the green. 16, the approach shot is right on the money. Like, he wasn't backing down whatsoever. So I'm interested to see what this is going to do for Thomas Detry's career. I don't think anyone could precisely put their finger on it. I know there's a lot of people saying he's going to be at Bethpage for the European Ryder Cup team. I don't think he's a lock by any means, but it feels like there's always spots on the back half of that roster. So certainly in contention with this win and what he did at major championships last year. I believe he actually topped 25 the last 3 major championships last year. So he's got a lot of game. I'm interested to see what he's going to do moving forward, and also like how the golf betting community is going to treat Thomas Detry moving forward now, knowing he's got at least some dog.
I was going to say, I think one of the best comparisons you can give for Thomas Detry looking at like Bethpage in the future is there's finally that breakthrough win where there's one tallied on the board and they can have that big moment and come through. But then the rest of the game adds up in the long run, right? Where, like you said, that back end ticket, you could almost go, not exactly the same, but you could make like a reverse case, like someone like a Russell Henley, right? That back end ticket of, well, you're going to need this guy in that 4-day span. Like, this guy will win you matches, win you points in the 4-day span. It's not about the full track record. There was the one breakthrough. There's the tally on his list that gets him to the forefront of the conversation because he got a win. But now, because he got that win, you're able to take everything else into account and bring him truly into the conversation of what does this bring us when we go to Long Island in September.
No, completely agree. And it's going to be interesting too, because with the way he mashes the golf ball, hits it a long way. I talked about his irons being able to hit the ball really high and far and being able to stop it. Like, that's an elite talent to have, and certainly could be an advantage for some of the holes required for the Europeans at Bethpage. So that'll be very interesting to keep up with. But we do got to talk about some of the other talking points that we were referencing the broadcast mentioning time and time again. Let's start with Jordan Spieth, though, Ross, because I think he definitely deserves some flowers here on the show today, as even going back to prior to Jordan Spieth officially getting that wrist injury, you had mentioned that you were super high on Jordan's chances moving forward. We both had talked about the numbers that he had with the driver all throughout last season, and that being a huge inconsistency in his game. If he was able to keep driving the ball the way that he did last year while also kind of getting the wrist back and situated, and it's still going to be a process for Jordan, but we knew good things like this were possible. I don't think anyone, maybe not even you, I'm not sure, expected it to happen this quickly, but to see Jordan back on the big stage in contention, getting eyeballs, making Jordan Spieth type of pars, putting left-handed from out of the cactus, it's awesome to see, and it's good for the PGA Tour, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so I mean, we already chatted with Uncle Tweeth, and Uncle Tweeth was in with me and you when I said Jordan was hurt. Jordan was hurt. I wrote about it for 9 months before he actually acknowledged that he was hurt, that just go get it fixed. But you brought up in the meantime that everything else that he did textbook is terrible right now, but his driving is off the charts. Just, he's never hit the ball this well off the tee. It's just all the shots, the approach, everything, where normally we're expecting him to drain this from off the green. Not even coming close, where it all leads into the big argument of Jordan's hurt. The guy that is textbook about these shots is hurt. He needs to go fix that. Then Uncle Tweeth comes on and says, for someone that has had this type of surgery, everything, it is a huge difference maker. My prediction is Jordan Spieth wins a tournament in 2025. We get 2 sample sizes of Jordan, and Jordan looks like Jordan is actually might not just win an event in 2025. Jordan looks like Jordan is going to be someone to deal with in 2025. Because all this past weekend did was give him more confidence that, oh, fuck yeah, I'm back, baby.
Yeah, 1,000%. And for it to happen the way that it did after 3 pretty awful rounds at Pebble Beach in his first start of the season, the final round did go pretty well for him. And he talked about how his wrist still wasn't feeling all that great, and cool conditions might not be the best for him, as he's still kind of getting this thing back to being fully confident in his abilities and whatnot. But for him to just show that flash right away, pretty incredible out of Jordan Spieth, and definitely has us even more hopeful for what could be possible for him this season. Definitely think a win could be in the cards for Jordan Spieth, and it's still early, and to get that level of flash has to have a lot of people excited. Know a lot of eyeballs were watching, hoping for a little bit more of a charge out of Spieth on Sunday. But honestly, Ross, with it just being so soon, like, I didn't really expect Jordan Spieth to win. I was just kind of appreciating that he was there. You know what I mean?
I mean, you and I had our side chat all weekend where I fully predict that if he does not win prior to like the late summer swing, I think you're going to see him go to John Deere. I think you're going to see him go to 3M, something like that. And I think he's going to pick off one of those just to get himself off the fucking exemption list for 2026 and not have that whole other golf media of, oh, did Jordan deserve this? Well, he fucking won in 2025. So it's case closed, over, done. I think if he continues to play how he just played this past weekend, I think he plays himself right back into Ryder Cup contention and being a tail end pick.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting.
I mean, it's no secret that Keegan is going to bring the 12 best that are out there available.
Certainly not going to show favoritism towards that group.
No,
which is fair.
Which is completely fair. And I think Jordan knows right now, just like Ricky, Justin, everyone else in the boys club, they're on the outside looking in, and they need to earn that invitation from Keegan Bradley to be a part of that squad. And I think Jordan is one of the people you can actually legitimately circle and look at to has been hurt for a very long time, finally admitted it, went out, fixed it, and look at obviously short production, sample size, everything. But from what we're seeing, made the right decision finally, and we're seeing a little bit of what we hoped would come out of this. And if we are correct, and we technically all hope we're correct, because golf is just better when Jordan is draining, 30 footers out of the bunker to hole out for eagle.
When he's Spiething.
Yeah, when he's Spiething, we're all winning.
Exactly.
For the game of golf. So I'm curious to see, but if he continues to play like he did this past week, I think he wins much sooner than we expect. But I do not think it's below him just to get his name off that exemption list, everything, and all those questions that were asked for like this week where, oh, got an exemption into the Genesis and everyone goes nuts. Oh, shouldn't have. I think he's smart enough to take his name out of that type of conversation. Just go play the John Deere. Just go play the 3M, whatever. Fucking win it. Hey, guess what? I'm off the list. You guys don't got to worry about me for like 3 years.
Yeah. It's just nice to see Jordan Spieth making that decision finally to go and get surgery and it paying dividends for him already. As far as like the sponsor's exemption, I don't really care about. I just think it's overblown completely. Like, first off, it's a sponsor's exemption. What do you think they're going to do? Best for business. They're going to have Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler in the field because they're marketable. People know who they are. People actually want to go and see these guys. Like, I don't really get making a big fuss over it, especially when like everything Jordan has done for the game of golf and making golf interesting. And outside of like Tiger Woods and Rory, no one tuned in to watch golf for anyone more than when Jordan Spieth is contending for something and doing his typical Spiethian type thing. So like, yeah, I guess if you want to get like technical about it, maybe it shouldn't go to Jordan, should go to another more deserving player. But at the end of the day, this is up to a tournament sponsor, and they're just going to choose Jordan Spieth 100% of the time because of everything he's done for the game, which I think he's deserved at this point. No?
So this is the only way I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here is if Jordan Spieth gets a sponsor's exemption into the Genesis this week, no surgery, I probably have a problem with it.
Oh, okay. If he's just openly playing dog water golf, I think it is a completely different story. Yeah.
Yes. So if he does not admit that there's a problem, I have to go out and get this fixed. Go back 6 months at this point. You didn't fix your problem. You get a sponsor's exemption. I'm going to have probably honestly, a little bit.
Just the easier conversation is just having it about Ricky. Like, If you like, I could understand him gripe about Ricky. Ricky hasn't done shit in the last year and a half since he won at the Rocket Mortgage. He's literally played awful golf ever since. He kind of figured it out a little bit in the fall, but it's not been good. Yeah, so like I could understand you making a gripe about Ricky because he doesn't have that historical background either, like Jordan Spieth does. Even though he is a popular figure and has won some big events, it's not like Ricky Fowler's won a major here or anything. Like Jordan Spieth has a way greater impact on the game of golf than Ricky Fowler.
And one of the things I even argued with the golf Twitter community, so RIP to me, because I spend a lot more keyboard clicks than I would like to spend.
Happens to the best of us.
Which was just when everyone bitched and moaned about, oh, he got an exemption. Hey, you know what? He went and he realized what his problem was. He got it fixed. I'm okay with this year, him getting the exemptions into shit. If he doesn't make it count this year, next year off the table. Like, you didn't qualify, you're out, whatever, fair game like everyone else. You went and you fixed your problem. Someone like Ricky, which I love Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky, love
Rick. Great person, everything. Ricky, unless you start putting this shit together, I don't know what else we really have to hang on, man.
It was pretty tough from Rick. And what'd you think about the outfit? We almost got by TPC Scottsdale and the Waste Management Phoenix Open without talking about the Ricky outfit on Thursday before him withdrawing.
Wait, he was morning. There? I didn't see him.
That was the joke I was making my buddies. I was like, no, guys, he didn't actually withdraw. Nobody just can find Ricky. He's just missing. He didn't withdraw. He's just missing. No one can find him. He actually teed off on the first tee. They just didn't see him there. But no, it hasn't been good from Ricky. It was not a very good performance from him on Thursday. Quite honestly, I thought it was going to be way worse than he only ended up shooting 3 over 74, but it looked like it was like en route to an 80. And same with Max Homa. Like, man, him and Max are down bad.
And this is where Uncle Tweeth Mitchell would come in with the conspiracy theory. Are they just playing bad, or is this just Cobra Golf's equipment fucking sucks?
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid asking point. We don't really have enough of a sample size. I don't know if there's enough guys on Cobra to actually get this into data here, but it's.
I'm just saying there's only 2 really big guys and they're really fucking struggling. I will say I will not name the other shows. I did listen to a couple other shows where a certain golfer had played with Ricky Fowler last week, going and also again this week, and did say in the 6 days in between from when I saw him Sunday to the next day, he looked progressively worse.
Not good.
So I'm just going to say, I'm going to believe that Rick was actually sick on this case, but also Uncle Tweeth's equipment, you know, I don't think he's wrong.
I don't necessarily think he's wrong either. Down bad is Max, so much so that I feel like I hope he did.
Did you see what his number is this week?
Oh, it's crazy. We'll get there. Yeah. Don't bury the lead. But the Scottie Scheffler compliment when Scottie was asked in the media, he was like, oh yeah. Basically what Scottie said is Max Homa's playing like shit, but he keeps a smile on his face, so good on him. I was like, oh man, like that's tough. Scottie's a good guy and he's never gonna talk bad about anyone, you know, and it's like a tough question for him to have to answer as he's trying to contend for a golf tournament while Max Homa's just trying to break 80 and hit greens in regulation with all of his might. But I thought that was just a little bit of a tough comment there. Tough week for Max Homa. We'll see if he's able to put it together here anytime soon, but the numbers certainly don't look encouraging. But speaking of Scottie Scheffler though, Ross, we got to talk about Scottie Scheffler because looked like there for a minute. He was doing his boogeyman typical type of thing on Sunday. Birdies, 4 of the opening 6 of his last 8 holes because he birdied to finish on Saturday. Because, of course, it's Scottie Scheffler. He's annoyingly good. He'll never, truly go away. Rising up the leaderboards. It was 25-1, I think, to open up the day on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm like, dude, I really don't want to, I never hedge on golf tournaments or, against anything. I had Bobby Mack in the mix, Mav McNeely in the mix. I'm like, Scheffler's down 8, 25-1. It's not good value whatsoever. I'm going to lay off. But after he birdied 4 of the opening 6, I'm like, this motherfucker. And it's Thomas Detry in the lead. So I'm like, this could be gone literally in the blink of an eye. Scottie's making a charge. Felt like the birdie putt on 9, though, just absolutely broke him, Ross. He had like 4.5 feet for birdie, wound up lipping out, which was super weird because his putt, he started on the right edge thinking it was going to break left. It ended up just moving a fraction right. Robert McIntyre, I know because I was tracking him all day long. He had like a super long putt from the top of the hill there. And the last like half of a foot of that putt rolled left. So it literally, like, the ball did two opposite things on semi-similar-ish lies. But after Scottie missed that putt, he just went full eject on the back 9, just started making bogeys. I think he finished like T35. I have the leaderboard pulled up here, but Scottie like went full ejection on. Yeah, he finished T25. Ended up shooting 1 over in the final round. I'm not really concerned about him whatsoever. Like, I don't really think him blowing up down the back 9 is anything to like really make a big deal of. It was a little weird to see happen. You expected Scottie to go and make more of a serious push and not maybe get so mentally frustrated and kind of take himself out of it. But he's clearly capable of still doing everything he was capable of doing last year. What are your thoughts on Scottie as a whole from his performance?
This is just math, guys, that Scottie's on this late 2020s run of what would be comparable to the PGA Tour of the early 2000s with Tiger. It shouldn't fucking be possible. Yeah. He is the 1% against the 99% that, oh, he won 7 events last year, a major and a gold medal. If he wins 3 events this year, that's still more successful than fucking anyone's pretty much ever been on the PGA Tour in this run.
Yeah.
Man, so
his iron game, dude, is just so unbelievable.
He set the bar so goddamn high last year with just wiping the board that I don't think people really truly account for the coming back down to earth. And the coming back down to earth is he might win like just 3 events this year, maybe a major, whatever, but only win 3 events this year. And it still would be one of the most successful seasons in PGA Tour history.
And for him to look this good, though, just 2 starts back, after not being able to really swing all that much, like, yeah, he knew he wasn't going to win on Sunday and clearly got disinterested. And I don't think it's going to have any repercussions of him moving forward. Maybe it is a slower start to the year than it usually is for Scottie. Not like he's coming out of the gates blitzing hot or anything. He's never like won the Century or anything too early in the season. I still think it's there's going to be Scottie weeks and they're going to be inevitable for sure. It just didn't happen to be this week in his second start of the season off of hand surgery when he needed to shoot like 62 to even have a chance. He needed to shoot like 59 realistically. He needed to shoot more than 59 to have a chance with Thomas Detry getting to 24 under.
It's again with you just have to go and change how the game has progressed. When Tiger goes out in the early 2000s and wins 8, 9, 10 events a year, you need to extrapolate that to the future, where when Scottie wins 2, 3, 4 events in a season in 2025, that's the equivalent of Tiger winning 10 in 2000.
I think it's still too early to exactly predict how many wins Scottie is going to have. But I think it's still going to be 4 or 5.
But I mean, like, that's what you need to realize, the way the game progresses and how far more advanced it is, that when you say, oh, well, Tiger won 10 events in 2000, if Scottie pulls off 3 fucking wins this year, that's still the same equivalent to what Tiger did 25 years ago. Because that's the advancement of the game of golf and how competitive it is. That's still the same thing where you can. That's been my argument the entire time, is that what Scottie's doing now in these 2020 era, this won't be replicated. This is like its own Tiger from 2000 to 2019 is Scottie from 2020 beyond. That can't be replicated because this is the 1% that shouldn't be happening. So when Scottie wins 3 or 4 events this year, you're just going to sit there and go, oh, fuck, that shouldn't have happened. Guys are lucky if they win more than one.
Yeah. Some of the approach shots that he had throughout the week, just so ridiculous with his wedges, man. The amount of chances he gives himself within 15 feet. The sand shot was crazy.
I did like seeing him, expose himself a little bit and do the tomahawk chop to the bag.
Yeah, no.
I did kind of like that.
Yeah, I like when Scottie's a person and has real human-like emotions and isn't just a walking robot out there.
Yeah, but then, of course, they interview him right after. He's like, yeah, I'm just good. I'm just waiting to go home and see Meredith and Bennett. And it's like, oh, motherfucker. Here we go.
So uninteresting, man. So uninteresting. But on the course, definitely everyone was interested to see if Scottie was going to be able to chase down Thomas Detry. 4 under through the first 6 holes certainly made it interesting. Also wanted to give a shout out, though, to the man that took down Scottie Scheffler by several strokes in the same pairing on Sunday. None other than Will Chandler in his 3rd PGA Tour event. It was his first ever cut made. Wound up finishing T6 along with Justin Thomas and Robert McIntyre. Shoots 5 under 66 on Sunday. And how did he get into the field, Ross Baran?
By playing pretty much the last of ever Monday cue for the Waste Management.
Yeah, and that's why we've been pumping the tires of Monday cues here on the show. Of course, we've had Ryan French himself representing Monday qualifiers on the show and talking about how this is such a vital part of the PGA Tour. And I mean, seemingly every tournament, Ryan does such a good job at it. Whenever there is one of these guys in contention or having a nice tournament round on the PGA Tour, he always highlights like, oh, how they get on there, how they make it to that point. It's because of Monday qualifiers. I know one in particular, JT Poston, I believe he Monday qualified to get into his first PGA Tour event, and then got a high-end finish, earned himself status on the PGA Tour, and then ended up breaking through for his first PGA Tour win. And there are thousands of stories like that on the PGA Tour, and unfortunately, the days of Monday qualifiers look like they're coming to a close. But in one of the final ones, as you referenced, Ross, for Will Chandler to make a run like that on Sunday, go toe-to-toe with Scottie Scheffler. I mean, think about the amount of eyeballs, the amount of intensity, especially as Scottie's going on a great run early. Everything that Will Chandler had to battle through and everything he had battled through in order to get up to that point, for him to make the cut and finish T6 at the Waste Management Phoenix Open was truly incredible. And I thought it was awesome too, Ross. We talk shit a lot about the broadcast and the announcers and yada, yada, yada. And we could still probably go on several things about the Waste Management Phoenix Open in that category. But what I thought was awesome was Frank Nobilo giving a lot of respect to not only Will Chandler, but Monday qualifiers and why he thinks they're an important part of professional golf. And also cool to see, as we talked about before recording, Ryan French going on Dan Rappaport's show to have his couple of minutes to talk about Monday qualifiers and Will Chandler and whatnot. That was super cool. And in my opinion, the second best part of the day outside of Thomas Detry proving he has dog.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been friends with Ryan. Ryan's been a great friend to the show. Come on a couple times now. We'll be back again. Small teaser there.
Stay tuned.
But overall, this is why the Monday cues are the best. These are what we focus on is true golf sickos. Is just these guys getting their chance, playing their way into the field. And then you know what they do a lot of the time? They go and they do shit like this. They do life-changing things. They make life-changing efforts to get their name out there. Oh, what did he do this week? Oh, he beat the world number 1 head-to-head in a round. Guess what? That is a lifetime accomplishment. I'm sorry. It may not be for other people, but guess what? He gets to carry on the rest of his life from here, that I was paired with Scottie Scheffler and in a head-to-head on a Sunday round. You know what I did? I beat him straight up.
Walk away with bragging rights and a pretty nice paycheck, I'm sure, from finishing T6 at the Waste Management.
That's what I mean. But at the same time, there's a whole other dialogue we could go on for an hour discussing and talking about that. Oh, but we need to get rid of more of these opportunities and we have to cut down less. No. plain and simple, that was one of the longest running Monday queues in history. And it ended this year because of a PGA Tour decision.
Yeah. Unfortunate. We're not gonna go too deep because, as you said, we could go an hour on this.
We could go forever, but we're gonna go really simple. One of the people that made their opportunity through that final historic Monday queue made it count, made an effort, and it will not be forgotten. It's that simple.
Ends with the bang. Couple other shout outs I wanted to give from the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Michael Kim, who's always great on X and interacting with a lot of fans. Awesome to see Mike, play really well on Saturday and Sunday. I know he was bogey free, through 54 holes, only made one bogey for the entire tournament, wound up finishing T2. Played really well, man. And for a guy who's had to overcome a lot of things himself, losing his PGA Tour card after being a winner at the John Deere Classic many years ago, lost his swing. Like, for him to have these type of moments, it's awesome for a good guy like Michael Kim, who does a lot for the golf community and is so open and interactive with everybody.
That's literally all I can think about the whole time is that, this is the guy that occasionally will chat with me on Twitter or X or whatever, because he's like, oh, well, I'm waiting for my flight. I got 35 minutes. Ask me anything. And then he'll just start talking.
And he says, yeah, really cool guy. And he's like super open about the developments of his game, like when he's feeling good, what he's specifically working on. And like many guys on the PGA Tour, has gotten longer over these last couple of years, was pumping the ball out there. I think he hit it like 350 on the par 5 15th. And he mentioned on Twitter that he had been working on some around the green things that clearly paid dividends for him, shooting only one bogey through 72 holes of the tournament. Just good to see Mike Kim contending and his thoughts about it after the tournament. San Diego native, going to be in the field for Torrey Pines this week, the Genesis Invitational. I believe he went to Torrey Pines High School, actually. So he popped up there at the Farmers Insurance Open in 2024. And now to have this consistency in his game once again is really cool to see. I also wanted to give a shout out to Daniel Berger, a guy who's been through a lot himself, man. I think it was his... Oh, no, he finished runner-up, I believe, to Maverick McNeely at the RSM Classic. So it wasn't his first top 10 finish since coming back from the injury, but a guy who in 2020, 2021 had gotten himself up to top 10 in the world golf rankings after winning at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, had a wrist injury, then a back injury that kept him away from the game for several years. We saw him trending in the right direction late last year, and I mentioned finishing runner-up to Maverick McNeely in the fall. I talked about him actually on the Bet Show with Joey Ricotta, so definitely wanted to make sure to bring it up today. Joey mentioned to me Daniel Berger could be someone of interest, and I said, I've liked Berger for a long time and definitely been keeping an eye on him. I just wanted to see him put it together for 4 consecutive rounds before I actually believed in him winning, and we got those 4 consecutive rounds at the Waste Management. Did about all he could to really put some sort of pressure on Thomas Detry. Had that chip in, the putt that he made birdie for on 15 just flew the green on 16, and Detry put it to an inch, and it was basically all said and done. But lots of good things from Daniel Berger, lots of good things from Michael Kim. 2 guys who have been through a lot. Was really cool to see at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, Ross.
That was definitely one of the things I've had in side conversations was just seeing some of these names up there coming off of injury, being relevant on the board again. Jordan Spieth, Daniel Berger, great to see going into a Sunday.
Absolutely. Final thought that I had from TPC Scottsdale. I know we're 45 minutes in and we still got to get to Genesis here. We talked about it last week, Ross. TPC Scottsdale is awesome. And I think it's everything that a TPC course featured on the PGA Tour, hosting PGA Tour events should consist of. Tons of risk reward holes where, yeah, you can make birdie, but you can also make a big number. Unfortunately, we didn't get this last year because there was a lot of rain in the Scottsdale area, and it's not always controllable at PGA Tour events, but the firmness of the golf course, I think it's one of the only ways to legitimately challenge players nowadays. And with how firm TPC Scottsdale was playing, the runoff was making shots challenging, and even guys who were getting aggressive and going into par 5s, if their ball ran over the green, that put them in a really tough spot to get up and down. You got the water hazards all around the place. 16 is absolutely awesome. Shout out to Emiliano Grillo for one of the coolest hole-in-ones I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a slam dunk toilet bowl quite the way that one rattled around the cup. 17, drivable par 4 where you can easily make par on if you're not taking care of things. Then 18, I think, is a pretty good finishing hole as well. It has gotten a little bit overdone by technology as most guys just blast driver over those sand traps. But all in all, TPC Scottsdale, I don't think it's an environment we want, weekly on the PGA Tour, but it is very welcomed, especially for Super Bowl week. Very well fit, and I always enjoy watching this golf course. And had Thomas Detry not won by 7 strokes, it was one of the 3 times in the last 23 years where it hasn't been a 1-stroke victory or a playoff. Had it not been for that, it was a super bunched and interesting leaderboard. I just think it's a really phenomenal course, Ross.
No, literally the views, everything we could see, played phenomenal, looks phenomenal. Just need to stay on the circuit in general every single year.
Absolutely, and it does still draw a good enough field where you don't need to have a signature event, right? Like Scottie's always going to go. He's broke through there a couple of times. Loves the golf course. Justin
Unless
Thomas
you're
plays.
Zach Johnson, no one comes to this event. No one likes this event.
Yeah, wrong. This event slaps year in, year out. Love the golf course. Love the event. It's always going to draw some big names. Maybe it's not up everyone's forte. Doesn't need to be that way. But I really enjoy it. Moving on to the next topic, though, that we got to get to, Ross. Let's talk about some live stuff, actually, real quick before we get to the Genesis Invitational this week. I know the ratings came out from Liv's first tournament being partnered broadcast-wise with Fox Sports. The numbers were not very pretty. 12,000. Colton Oast made a nice reference on the 16th saying there were 24,000 fans in attendance. That's 12 times 2 if his math was correct, and I do believe Colt's math was correct there. We both talked before recording, Ross. We think it's not really that big of a deal to bring up the live ratings week 1, considering what week it was, Super Bowl week, Waste Management Phoenix Open week. Quite honestly, to me, it was just like bad business and bad scheduling by Liv in order to have their Fox debut. I also don't think there was a lot of like promotion, pumping this out, letting people know, or sports fans in general know, that this was going to be a thing, like leading up to the Super Bowl. I didn't really see anything going on in terms of like the NFL playoffs that were on Fox pumping this bad boy out. So I don't really know like also how much they really even care at this point because of some other things that are going down in the live world. But give me kind of your thoughts on the live ratings through week 1. I know we don't got to spend a huge minute on it, but also talk to us about the bigger live news that's been going on in terms of a potential framework agreement that we've been sitting here twiddling our thumbs over for the last 4 years.
So we are fortunate enough to have a good handful of close live friends and supporters that also support us here at Golf on Tap. And I'm just going to say this week was a wash, and it's a tied up week, Super Bowl, everything. It's going to get better. I think they hit a home run. They went and they got out with a very good network to broadcast their product. I think it fell on poor timing, poor decision. I think they're just trying to match up with the season, stay on track with the season. It's going to get better. We're just going to call it a wash, plain and simple. What it is. Just the night golf was cool. I will say the night golf was cool. that was a cool thing to watch. From what I was from the few moments I was able to catch, that was fucking sweet. But I do think it's going to get better with time. I think it was just poor planning, poor timing. Maybe you push this one back a week in the future, moving on. But it's going to get better. It is what it is. Everyone took their shots. We're going to call it even. It is what it is. But
hold on, Ross. But quite honestly, I do want to say, even if we didn't have Red and live followers that support us here on the show, I do think, in all honesty, like, you got to give them until at least Adelaide next week and several events moving forward to get like a true accurate depiction of what these numbers are going to look like because of all the reasons that you just referenced. It's not like we're coming on here giving a biased take or anything. I truly believe that's the facts in the matter. It was just bad scheduling, kind of bad business. And quite honestly, with all the funding that Live Golf has, I don't really think they care to do like bad business. They just want it to be a thing. And I give them props for night golf. Like I did think that was unique. It was a little bit of a weird course to do it on, is that they were kind of able to just drive it and tear it apart. But at the same point in time, how many courses can you actually do night golf at? And I applaud Liv for like doing different things, because that's what they should be marketing themselves as, is golf, but different, not like louder golf, but like different, like be creative, have those different types of ideas. I give them applause for that. And I will be interested to see what the ratings are going to be in a couple of weeks. Not even, again, that like the ratings are really all that like influential. I just am curious to see what it's going to look like when there's maybe a legitimate PGA Tour or Live Golf battle head to head, not on Super Bowl weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But get to the main Live talking point. I want you to talk about the article that you have written up. And again, to anyone tuning in with us, make sure to go and check out Ross's article at On Tap Sportsnet. And we've gone 50 minutes without a reminder to go and follow Golf on Tap for free wherever you listen to your podcast. That way you can tune into every show if you're not able to join us live. But Ross has a great article in the queue coming out at ontapsportsnet.com. Ross, kind of give us a little bit of a rundown on that.
So it is reported today, finally, it looks like we've reached a framework agreement between the PIF and the PGA Tour. From the reports, it looks like the PIF and the PGA Tour have submitted 4 different framework agreements to the Department of Justice. Now, for everyone that's brand new to this, one of the biggest blocking points, aside from the PGA Tour and PIF just wanting to butt heads the whole time, is the Department of Justice is not going to approve anything until they can verify where the PIF's investment money is coming from. And of course, we're not going to go super deep into this, but we know what some of that money seems it may or may not have been tied into in the past 25 years, specifically a specific date that will live in infamy for a lot of us growing up as children. Jay Monahan has accused of it in the past. Department of Justice is going to go through and verify where all these funds come from. That is why it appears today that they are going to submit 4 different framework agreements, financial terms, and agreements to the Department of Justice for them to sort through and pick which is the best one. And ultimately, this is just eliminating blood money, is the nicest way to put it. Just where are these funds coming from? There are 4 different outlets being submitted to find out what is the most appropriate way that they can move forward. And as long as this goes through, this looks like a deal is imminent. And it looks like it's going to happen within the first quarter of the professional golf season, which ideally, if you're going in quarters, would mean we're currently targeting about the Masters. They would be announcing that we have golf unification.
And I think for anyone out there who, like myself, there's a lot of questions and a lot of difficulties in terms of getting this deal finalized, right, Ross? You mentioned at the end of Q1 being when this could potentially be finalized. What would that mean, though, for the world of golf, the PGA Tour Live, like the rest of the season? Like, talk about some of, like, if you know, obviously the details are scarce, but like, is this going to change what's on the PGA Tour right here, right now in 2025? I'm sure there's a lot of people wondering about those details as well.
We would not expect anything to even occur until 2026.
Just wanted to get that out there.
And that would be the soonest, and I would not even rule out 2027 for the new funding that Live now has with their Fox deal, everything. I don't think it is too obtuse to think that they may roll with their own thing again in 2026. And same thing with the PGA Tour, the way that they've laid out all these new deals and all these new strategies. This may go into 2027 before we see anything. But the fact is, this is the closest we've been. After 2 years, it looks like we are finally going to get a financial agreement on how do we unify and make something fair to bring all parties together again. This could happen as soon as the Masters. If it doesn't happen by the Masters, I would not be surprised, but it looks like it's moving forward fast enough that it could happen there. But the biggest thing is what we've talked about for over 2 years now is a framework agreement and financial deal. And it appears today the PIF, the Saudi PIF, and the PGA Tour have submitted 4 different representations to the Department of Justice. And the biggest thing that people have forgotten this entire time is it was not just Saudi PIF and the PGA Tour. It's the Department of Justice has their hand in this. That the two sides can agree and say, oh, yeah, that sounds great. You'll give us this much money and you'll fund this and we'll pay you this and you'll have these many shares. No, the Department of Justice checks into every U.S. business deal. This is technically a U.S. business deal. They want to know where is that money coming from?
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing with our government is they are checking where does that money coming from? Where did you obtain that money? How did you gain that much money? And that is why there is now going to be at least four different representations of where this money can come from. It's essentially 4 different business deals have been brought to the Department of Justice's desk for them to say, all right, that's the most logical and ethical one.
Well, definitely progress, which is noteworthy for how long this entire thing has taken. And, for whatever the next step is going to be, Ross, you'll be covering it. So to anyone watching right now, Ross will be giving all the latest details, I'm sure, and we'll be talking about it on the show throughout whenever we get the next update as far as this framework agreement. But I think it's time to move on over to the Genesis Invitational 2025. Unfortunately, we know this tournament is not going to be played at Riviera Country Club, as unfortunately, because of the Los Angeles wildfires, they had to move this to Torrey Pines. We're back at Torrey Pines for the second time in 4 weeks, Ross. It is going to be different this time, though, for sure. It's a signature event, the third of 8 signature events, I believe, on the schedule. We got a lot of different players, and also there's not going to be the North Course featured in the rotation, which was 100% the right decision. 4 rounds strictly at the South Course. There is going to be a cut, by the way, something that doesn't happen. I think it's only here, and maybe the Memorial is the only other signature event. Might not even be the Memorial. This might be the only one that does have a cut. Top 50 in ties, though, and like the Masters, if you're within 10 shots of the lead after 36 holes, you will make the cut as well. So with 72 players in the field, there's a chance like 63 of these guys, or maybe even more, wind up making the cut. But there is a cut this week. Torrey Pines South hosting the 4 rounds. Don't really need to give too dive on Torrey Pines South because I mentioned I wrote up an article on my course preview. I talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago. South Course, it's a grueling test. U.S. Open level test. Yeah, we're back. Long tee to green, 7,767 yards. Longest course on the PGA Tour. One of 2 courses on the PGA Tour longer than 7,200 yards with greens. Smaller than 5,000 square feet on average. So it's a long golf course. Long Kikuyu rough. 84 sand bunkers. Yeah, maybe it's not the most unique type of golf course, as we've mentioned, when there was some random, I feel like, Torrey hate going on a couple of weeks ago, because there are a lot of cookie cutter straight golf holes that ask you to hit the ball long and straight. Well, guess what? Do it. It's still tough to do that on the PGA Tour. And hey, Harris English, who won this thing a couple of weeks ago, won at -8. Those are the love events the events we always talk about on the show that we love, Ross. We love to see these guys actually get challenged. With 4 rounds strictly on the South Course, with its length, long par 4s, no gimme birdie holes out there at all, including the par 5s. That's exactly what we're going to get this week with the best on the PGA Tour in the field. So I got no gripes about Torrey Pines whatsoever. I'm excited actually to see just the South Course in play for 4 consecutive rounds. But Ross, before we get on out of here, we still got to go through the odds boards, talk about some of the early leans we got here early on in this week. Nothing finalized for either of us at this point in time. As it is still Monday afternoon. And another thing I should mention about this tournament right off the jump, looks like there's going to be some interesting wind and weather going on Thursday and Friday as well. So maybe just something you want to keep an eye on when tee times come out, and when we were here for the Farmers Insurance Open a couple of weeks ago, there was a huge split between tee times. It's actually not going to be that much of a difference because there's only 72 guys in the field, most of them teeing off at the same time. But still, wind, weather, how the course is going to play, what key stats are going to be important, I believe. Some things are TBD about what's going down at Torrey Pines this week, but we got a lot of big names at the top of the board, Ross. Scottie Scheffler, the boogeyman, plus 425 in a 72-man field. I'll tell you what, feels like a pretty good price. Rory McIlroy in his first start off of winning at Pebble Beach, plus 750. Then you got Morikawa, JT, Ludwig, and Hideki, all under 25-1. Just starting at the top of the board here, Ross, to kick things off. You got any guys that you are considering at this point in time?
No, the first person I would even potentially put on my card is sitting at 22.
Okay, well, I'll give a little bit of a rundown of the top of the board because I do think it is particularly interesting. Scheffler, I just said a moment ago, plus 425. I don't love what he's been doing around the greens in his first two starts back, but that's historically such a strong point for Scottie Scheffler. We know he has the ability to drive it long and straight. I think I've bet Scottie once, maybe twice in the last year and a half. This does feel like a pretty good opportunity to do so. What I will say, though, is he did get a little wayward at times with the driver, and you will be punished at Torrey Pines if he does that once again. But with a low winning score, I just think that favors Scheffler so much because we know in any certain round he can separate himself with a 67 or a 68, and those -4, -5-ish type of rounds are so valuable over 4 days here. So I do think Scottie's interesting. I also think Rory's interesting too, for sure. The way he's, obviously drove the ball at Pebble Beach. It's a much different golf course this week. Has a decent history at Torrey Pines, and I just think he's in really good form and is giving it his all right out of the gates in 2025. So I think Scottie and Rory are both interesting at the top. I don't really have a ton of interest in Colin, especially if it's going to play soft, because he's not the longest player, and that's going to make his approach shots into greens even tougher. I don't trust JT. Hideki's playing a lot of golf. I believe Hideki's only had 1 week off to start the year, and he's lost strokes off the tee in 3 consecutive events. Yeah, he can certainly do it. The one to me, though, outside of Scottie and Rory off the top, I do think Ludwig is interesting. Even though, yeah, there's the Stones narrative, and he's had some bad Sundays. I'll give him a break for being sick and the awful performance that he had at Pebble Beach and withdrawing. I think I can brush that aside just because the kid's game is so good. And now we're getting him at 22-1 in a 72-man field. Like, his number was 12 and 14 when we were a couple of weeks ago, and he was sick. And if he's not sick, I think that's a more than fair number. So Scottie and Rory, tough guys to bet at their number. I don't know if I'm actually going to get there again. I do think they're both interesting, and you can surprise, surprise, you can make cases for Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy to win golf tournaments. I think them two and Ludwig are the most interesting ones to me in this range. But Ross, I know you said you don't start your card till after 25. We got Patrick Cantlay at 30, Sungjae at 35, Spieth at 40, Højgaard at 40, Pendrith at 40, and then Fleetwood, Finau, and Day all at 45. You got anyone in this range who's catching your eye right off the top?
So, minor miscommunication. I am looking heavily at Ludwig at 22.
You're all good, buddy. You're all good.
I'm looking heavily at Ludwig at 22 because going into Saturday, last time he came through here, he was gonna run away with that fucking thing, and then he showed up day 3 puking his guts out.
To be fair, he did shoot 9 under at the North Course, which won't be in Rota this week, but I still think his game just translates so marvelously to Torrey Pines South. And look, maybe Ludwig doesn't win this year. At some point in time, though, this kid is going to break through, and I think this is a really good spot for him, and I wouldn't be shocked if it came this early either. Like, there's obviously a lot of possibilities with a kid like Ludwig, but I think it is inevitable for him to be great, and I just think this is a really good number for him. But you got anyone in this next range at all that you wanted to talk about?
So I have 4 people coming through this next range.
Oh, a lot of interest. Love it.
So coming through this next range, just after the last week, Jordan Spieth hanging out here at 35-1 is drawing some of my interest. Another player beyond Jordan that just statistically plays really well at these courses. And when we get to these bigger tournaments, he always seems to just pump himself up. Hanging out here at 40-1 is Shane Lowry.
Yeah, I think that's a really good number for Shane too. And he actually got kind of screwed. I mentioned that the weather draw that happened a couple of weeks ago when we were at Torrey Pines, he was on the wrong end of that. And he actually had 2 pretty solid rounds, had the runner up at Pebble Beach. And guess what, Ross? If it gets windy, gets rainy, like I trust Shane Lowry in those type of conditions, man. I like what you're preaching there.
Another one that I actually missed, along with Jordan, Sung J M is out there at 35-1. Just finished solo 4 here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. I don't love the number on Sung Jae, but he is playing really well, man, and good tee to green type of golf. I'm interested in Sung Jae for sure. I don't love the number though, admittedly.
And the final one, kind of just slightly outside this range. We're looking really in the 40s, but I'm going to go to 45 here. Thomas Detry, last week's winner, 45-1, finished T15 here 2 weeks ago.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I do wonder, week after finally winning, this is my thought about Tommy Dietz. Also, I was never really there in the first place with Thomas Detry, so I don't really know if I'm even going to be there now. Now that the win has happened, who knows if he ever wins again? He certainly has the game in order to do so. I wonder after finally winning, I mean, this is a guy who's 32 years old, never won on the DP World Tour, never won a PGA Tour. You feel like Tommy Dietz is celebrating hard whatsoever? Like, you feel like he went hard after that win? I feel like it's just been a long time coming for him.
I think he's going right back to business and business as usual.
If you like him that much, honestly, you should probably bet him like first-round leader. Because Thomas Detry, before he got the win, king of first-round leader. I wouldn't be surprised. If he does have that type of turnaround that you think is possible of him, I wouldn't be surprised for him to show it right away, not like linger in the first round. If he's in, he's going to be in. Just my opinion. You have anyone else under 50-1 though? Sorry, apologies.
No.
I've seen I've seen a lot of interest for Taylor Pendrith, smashed down to 40-1. Finished T7 here a couple of weeks ago, and I think he had a T9 in a couple of years prior. So I've seen a lot of interest for Taylor Pendrith. His outfit has just been so terrible as of late, and Sunday at Pebble Beach was maybe the worst of all time in the grout fit, which, listen, don't get me wrong, I love rocking a grout fit on the couch as much as the next guy, but for Jason Day Sunday at Pebble Beach, it was pretty disgusting. I do think Jason Day 45-1 is interesting. I don't love the Robert McIntyre 45-1 number, but I think his game is in a really good spot, and like comparatively to Tony Finau and Sam Burns, who I think, like, if they play to their best of their abilities, yeah, they can win this tournament, but I don't like where their games are right now. I think that's a relatively good number. I think I bet Will Zalatoris at 50-1, and then he withdrew. I would have preferred the 50-1 in that field compared to a 45-1 in this one, but this is a Will Zalatoris spot, and I always have FOMO when I'm not in on Will Zalatoris. I've seen a lot of love for Minwoo Lee at 55-1, but outside of 50, we'll just go from 50 to 100, Ross. Give me some of the tidbits. I know you got a lot of stuff written down. There's a lot of guys in this range. I'm not going to mention every single one of them, though, but I definitely wanted to make sure you get to everything you wrote down on the sheet here today.
All right, so another one, 55-1. Keegan Bradley, T15. Last time we were here.
Yeah, I know. I bet him. He just couldn't make a putt to save his life, but played pretty darn well from tee to green.
And then if we jump beyond that, I know it's hard to repeat and go twice. Harris English just won here 2 weeks ago. Guys, why the fuck is he out there at 65-1?
There's even 70s at some other sportsbooks for just people who are tuning in and are able to shop at sportsbooks. It's not a bad number. I don't know. It's just hard for me to get back on guys who just won again. It's just hard for me in the outright market.
Except we have the unique situation, Jack. We're going right back to the same goddamn course that he just won at.
I'd feel really stupid if Harris English went and banged this bad boy down again and I didn't have a piece of that 70-1 ticket.
And all these things that I'm putting out here, I'm bringing back that we are in the unique situation that we just played here 2 weeks ago, and we are coming back. These are where these guys finished. We're coming back to the same course 2 weeks later, and these are the numbers that are available.
And definitely fair talking points as we're here on Monday. And like you and I have both said, we don't have anything finalized at this point, but these are things to bring up here on this Monday research show. This is why we bring up a lot of guys.
This is where we're also going to go. So Harris English just won here 2 weeks ago, is out here at 60 to 1. Yes, I understand what you're going to tell me right now, that deeper field, tougher field. Sam Stevens just finished second here 2 weeks ago and is out there at 85.
Could have won. In his game, I forget who was talking about this. I listened to a ton of golf content. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I apologize, we're going to do an early tease, but if we're going to also pivot off Sam Stevens, Andrew Novak also finished T2, is out there at 110. We're back 2 weeks after he just finished second. He's out there at 110.
Very, very valid points. And I know the competition is much stiffer, but these are all fair numbers for guys down the board potentially take a long shot on. In particular for Sam Stevens, I was listening to a podcast. I take in so much golf content throughout the week. It's hard for me to remember who says what. But someone was talking to Sam Stevens' caddy, and he was expecting big things coming from Sam Stevens. So would not be surprised. And he has the length to go and do it on this type of golf course and to actually hang with the big dogs.
And then, honestly, I've gone through those. Those are my 9. I have a 10th that he's just a soft spot now, and every single week he's out there at these outrageous numbers, and he's already proven he can win. Young, talented, gonna come through. Again, who we're gonna go again? Actually, Nick Dunlap is out there after a T15 at 150 to 1.
Was he T15 here, or did he finish T15 last week? I can't even remember.
He was T15 at Farmers 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Big number. You know who also has a big number, Ross? Just scrolling and seeing it right now. Matthew Pavon's 350 to 1. Second biggest odds in the field. He actually has won here, and he looked alive. I believe he was 6 under going into day 2. Did I bury your lead? Were you going to talk about Matthew Pavon?
Nope. I did not have him on. For whatever reason, I've kind of written him off.
It's a big number for Matthew Pavon. Big number for Nick Dunlap as well. Just talent. I mean, I've talked literally on, I think, every betting show I've done with Joey Ricotta this year that, like, Nick Dunlap over 100 to 1. Like, I really just want to bet it every single week because I believe in his talent. Like, one of these weeks he's going to break out.
Fun fact, I had a chat with friend of the program, Christopher Powers, last week, and we're both just in agreement that when Nick Dunlap is out there at like the 110, 115, 120 range, you bet $1 or $2 even, and just you add him as that 6th or 5th or 6th trailer on the card, because eventually you're gonna make money on him on the season when he comes through, because you're gonna hit him at 115 to 1 at some point.
Yeah.
Honestly, looking through this, I have 10 guys on this list. I might do the outrageous thing and do like $2 or $3 on these 10.
Why not?
Each.
You get to choose your own adventure, buddy. That's the fun stuff about gambling.
That's the fun part is if I just bet $3 on all 10 of these guys, I'm only spending $30, and if any of them hit, I clear a $50 payday.
Exactly. Like your guys. Is there anyone you had written down that we didn't get to here real quick before I rattle off some guys I have interest in?
No, that was I did my deep dive after last week. Pissed me off when I thought I was going to do real great and come with all the knowledge that, you know what, we're going to go play the same course 2 weeks later. Here's the guys that finished really well there 2 weeks ago. Granted, little deeper field, but still the numbers are out there. Fuck it, I'm going to play it.
I love it. And listen, I don't think you were going to come on the show last week and lay down a Tommy Detry 100 to 1 ticket. So Guess what? Maybe we got the chance to go and do it this week. As far as some other guys I'm looking at outside of 50-1, again, nothing finalized. I do think Keegan is really interesting, and I kind of got this Keegan thing going on. I think he's just like super motivated, and I think this is a good golf course for him, and his stats have been really good. He just hasn't fully put it together through 4 rounds, but I think he's interesting. I think Adam Scott's a little bit interesting as well, but I am a little bit of an Adam Scott sucker too. But this odds board is just weird to me. Like, I have interest in guys, but in terms of them actually winning, I don't know if I really see it all that much. Like, deep down doesn't really do it for me. I was hoping my guy Lee Hodges was going to be here because I have a really bad Lee Hodges kick that I can't really get off of right now. Outside of 100, I really do think Matthew Pavon is just way too big of a number for a guy who's actually won on this golf course. Steven Yeager has contended at the Farmers Insurance Open a couple of weeks ago. I think he's a little bit interesting, but I feel like I'm going to hammer someone at the top of the board really hard this week. I don't really know who exactly it's going to be yet, but it's going to be someone who I believe in on U.S. Open style golf courses. One last intriguing tidbit that I do want to give out before we wrap up today's show, Ross. 5 of the last 6 winners of the Farmers Insurance Open, not the Genesis Invitational. Genesis Invitational obviously has never been held at Torrey Pines, but 5 of the last 6 winners at Torrey Pines for the Farmers Insurance Open, excluding Rahm in his U.S. Open, and excluding Matthew Pavon because he was a rookie winner on the PGA Tour. The other 5 have all finished inside the top 10 at either Bay Hill, Riviera, or Murfield Village in the year prior. It happened with Harris English. He finished, where did he finish? He finished T9 at, I had it in my article. I think he finished T9 at Bay Hill. We saw it with Luke List. We saw it with Max Homa. We saw it with Justin Rose. We saw it with Mark Leishman. I think it's just guys who have flashed the upside on similarly demanding tee to green tests, which you only get a couple of them in non-major season on the PGA Tour, the course that I referenced. Genesis usually held at Riviera. The Memorial held at Murfield Village. Bay Hill hosted the Arnold Palmer Invitational, where you see long golf courses with thick rough, where par is a really good score. You're going to need to scramble in order to win that type of golf tournament. So that is one interesting tidbit that I did want to give out. I know I didn't really talk about too many players in particular, but I'm still really early in my research this week. And as I mentioned early on in the show, I think whether and what type of tournament this is going to be and play at is going to indicate a lot of my directions in terms of the betting board that I'm going to go with as well. But Ross, any final thoughts before we tie things up on today's episode? We got an hour 15 worth of content. I'm pretty sure we got to everything, but didn't want to leave you hanging on any topics that we didn't get to potentially.
Nope, that's all I had this week. On to the next week.
On to the next one, baby. Hopefully it would be nice to cash one this week. I don't think I know Scottie's not going to be playing at the Mexico Open. I don't think he's going to be playing at the Cognizant Classic either. So if we can get a couple of tickets cashed in before Scottie starts doing his usual boogeyman Scottie Scheffler type of things, that would be great. Make sure to be on the lookout as well for all the content that we're going to be pumping out at ontapsportsnet.com throughout the rest of the week. I'll be having a final bets article out. As Ross and I mentioned earlier, he's got a piece, I don't know if it's out exactly at this point in time, about the potential framework agreements between the PGA Tour and LIV. Might be having a final bet show with none other than Mr. Joey Ricotta, who, by the way, cashed a Wyndham Clark first round leader outright, so I didn't feel all that bad about besting him on the coin flip for the Super Bowl. Probably going to have a bet show with Joey Ricotta this week. I'll make sure to keep everyone in the loop on that. But one last reminder, go and show some support to wherever you may listen to your podcast by following Golf on Tap. It's 100% free, the best way that you can support us on the grind here and with our channel. Go and follow at OnTap Golf on X. And also make sure to check out OnTap Sportsnet for all the latest golf news and everything Chicago sports related. We also got beer reviews, movie reviews, lots of good stuff over at OnTap Sportsnet. But thanks to everyone who tuned in and stuck with us up until the very end. Until next time, we will have a very special episode, a little bit of a teaser, hopefully coming next week. Until then, everyone, have a great rest of your Mondays. Crack 'em, lock 'em, and we'll see you next time.